Welcome to the ElectrifiedMind.com podcast, your direct access to the top life coaches, inspirational and motivational leaders of our world. Be prepared to eradicate your doubts, fears, and toxic energy as we electrify your mind for success at ElectrifiedMind.com. Welcome to the ElectrifiedMind.com podcast. I am your host, Philip Isaac. Before we get started today, I'd like to tell you about a company with stellar reviews. Carl's Landscaping, spelt with a K. That's K-H-A-R-R-L-S Landscaping, serving residential and commercial properties in Middle Tennessee and surrounding areas. Give them a call at 615-507-5313. As always, they provide free estimates. Tell them Electrified Mind sent you and save 15% off your first service. Our guest today is a motivational speaker, TEDx speaker, author, and executive coach. He is a professor at IE Business and IE University. Our guest today has been recognized by Thinking Head, the first speakers agency in Spain, and recognized internationally as one of the top 100 speakers in Spain. He is a strong educational professional with an international master's degree in organizational psychology, sports psychology, and compensation and benefits as well. Our guest today is passionate about helping people reset to grow. We are privileged to introduce as a guest on our show today, Jose Miguel Sánchez. Jose, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Philip. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being here, sir. You have an international master's degree in organizational psychology as well as sports psychology, which fascinates me. You obviously have a great understanding of the power of our minds. When did psychology become an interest of yours?
That's a good question, Philip. It started when I was in high school. I was around 17 years old, and I had this teacher of philosophy, who, apart from teaching us about the great philosophers, she started teaching us about psychology, and she introduced us one of the best psychologists we had here in Spain, Mr. Pinillos, and she told us to read one of his books. And I read the book, and at that moment, being 17, I knew I wanted to become a psychologist. So that was the right moment, the real moment I decided that psychology was going to be my profession, my career, and my purpose in life.
I love that. So you actually got started pretty early.
Yes, absolutely. I had it clear, and I'm very lucky that I have been able to make it my way of living, without any doubt.
I love that. You found something that you're passionate about, and you're doing
Absolutely.
that. Absolutely love that. When did you realize it was your meaning and purpose in life to coach, to teach, and to help others?
That's a good question, because I just said that I had it very clear. I started studying psychology, and when I started, I wanted to become a clinical psychologist, a therapist. But after 3 years, I realized that was really hard, really tough, and I couldn't see it clear. So I decided to go for organizational and then sport psychology. So in the end, I studied 8 years of psychology, and I decided that I wanted to help others to develop, to train them, and to take the most out of their potential. So at one point I would say third, fourth year of my studies in psychology, I decided that I wanted to develop the potential of the people and to help them solve daily life problems instead of working in mental illnesses that I thought it was too much for me at that moment. That was the reason I chose organizational and then sports psychology. And coaching, finally, I started knowing about coaching, executive coaching 13 years ago. Today I have more than 3,000 hours of executive coaching. But to me, coaching is another tool. And I really believe that coaching comes from Carl Rogers, one of the American psychologists, very well-known psychologist. and he used to have a humanist approach to his therapy, to his clients, and to me that's one of the sources of coaching, knowing that Socrates, the Greek philosopher, was one of them. So to me, coaching is something that is a great tool, but if you don't have a broad knowledge of human beings, a broad knowledge of the mind and the brain of people, it's going to be difficult to become a good coach. So coach is a great tool, but you need to train yourself a little bit more to be able to work with other people.
I love that. And being a psychologist, I mean, who has a better understanding of our minds? I mean, so yeah, those two things certainly align, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to study the degree I decided to study. I'm saying that when you work with others, you have to understand very well how people behave and what is behind the behavior. The behavior is what you observe. The important thing is what happened, which one is the process inside your brain, inside your mind, for that behavior to be real. So the important thing is that one. So you don't have a broad knowledge of human beings. You are gonna work in the surface, and in the end, you are not helping thoroughly people. And to me, I'm really serious about it, and to me, it's important. I'm not talking about studying psychology. I'm talking about studying human beings from different disciplines, but having a very, very good knowledge of how human beings work.
I want to talk to you about having a positive impact and using empathy to do so. Would you share with us how we can have a positive influence on others through empathy?
To me, empathy is the key of almost everything. If we talk only about organizations or companies, what I ask a leader now, of course, I need him or her to have a strategic vision. I need that he or she is really good in operations. But if he or she is not a good leader, he doesn't understand people, she doesn't understand conflicts, she doesn't know how to create relationship, he's not gonna be a good leader. And empathy to me is the key. Empathy is based in being balanced. If you are balanced, if you deal well with your emotions, it's gonna be easier for you that you understand other emotions. And in the end, empathy is to be able to understand other people, to have the ability to put yourself in their shoes. How do we achieve that? To me, there are like 5 steps. The first one, when you want to empathize with others, the first one is to be present. You have to be present for the other person. You have to be present for that person that you are talking to or you are working with. Second, you have to be a good listener. I call it, you have to have empathic listening. It's not just listening like you listen a friend. It's going a little bit farther. You have to be listening the other person from the other person, not from you. Third, you have to be able to ask powerful questions. If you want to know about the other person, if you really want to know what's going on in the other person, you have to ask powerful questions that gives you information about how she is dealing with whatever she's telling you. Fourth, you have to be able to calibrate, to read other emotions. It's not only about conversations, which is important. It's also about how that conversation is being produced. So you have to be able to read the emotions the person is telling you the things. And finally, you have to be able to create rapport. You have to be able to create that connection between human beings that many times is not only rational, but is many times unconscious. And you have to be able to create that rapport that connection between you and the other person. If you are able to go through these 5 steps, empathy is going to be there. And of course, if you have empathy with another person, to influence his or her in a positive way is something a little bit easier, no doubt about it.
Incredible. How much would you say empathy is learned, and how much of it is our characteristic that we're born with?
To me, of course, in our genes, we have the ability to be empathic with anyone. We have it in our genes. But to me, no doubt about it, is more of learning. And this is the good thing. The emotional part of our life, in this case, I'm talking about empathy, is something that we can learn during our whole life. It's a matter of will, it's a matter of observe, to be able to observe other people's behaviors, to be able to observe your own reactions, behaviors. To me, there is a great amount of learning, and that's good news. Everyone can be empathic if you want it. Although it's in our genes, we have the ability, when we develop it, when we model it from others, when we copy it from others, we have the possibility to learning throughout our life.
Awesome. You have a presentation where you cover the 10 keys to stimulate the emotional hemisphere of our brain. Would you tell us why stimulating the emotional hemisphere is necessary?
That's a good question. As you know, we have 2 hemispheres, the left and the right one. The left is the rational one, and the right is the emotional and the creative one. Both are linked through an organ called I think in English is corpus callosum. So that means that there are a lot of interactions between both of them. So you cannot work with just one, or the rational one or the emotional one. What is true is that throughout a lot of years, I would say centuries, the important one was the rational one. So if you go to look for a job, they were asking you, and they were working and assessing you through tests that were measuring your rational part. I think you call it coefficients, but I'm not sure if this word is right. So during a lot of time, that was the important part, and we forgot about the emotional part, the right hemisphere. Right now, we have realized that the important part in every single thing we do is the emotional one. Because in the end, every single decision we make, first of all, we are making that decision with our emotional part. Why? Because if you want to do something, what you are going to feel is an emotion. And then you will have a thought. And then you will rationalize that emotion. But the first thing is going to provoke in you is an emotion. So, to be able to stimulate your emotional hemisphere right now is a must, and I would say is the best thing you can do, because it's about being balanced with your emotions, and it's about being balanced and understand other emotions. And today, this is the key to success for me, no doubt about it.
I love that. Would you tell us how? How do we stimulate the emotional hemisphere?
How? That's a very, very, very good question. And I'm telling you why. Because it's something very easy, but many times we forget how to do it. I remember this study that was done with 10,000 executives, and they were asked, the question was something like, where do you have the most creative ideas? And they were saying places like while they were doing sport, in the shower, before falling asleep, that moment, the moment after waking up, that seconds after waking up, walking in a park, chatting with some friends, they were saying these kind of places. 97% of them. But 3% of them, they said that the best ideas, the most creative ideas, they had them in the workplace. 3%. That is telling us that during a lot of time, we haven't created an organizational environment which is friendly for being creative and for dealing with your emotions, for managing your emotions. Now, companies are being aware of that, and this is changing. And they are creating environments where the emotions are there, and when we're working, dealing, managing, understanding, and balancing your emotion is the key for success. So, answering your question, I would say these kind of things that put your whole body in actions, and that put your whole body in that flow way of living, like when you are doing sport, when you are walking, when you are chatting without any problem. I would say when your mind is not afraid, when you don't feel that there is an alert, an alarm, because there is a danger coming to you. And that danger can be a client, a meeting, a presentation. When your mind is quiet, when your mind is flowing, then you are stimulating your emotional hemisphere, and to be balanced, which is to me the final goal, is there. You get it, and from there you are able to make any difficult, complex decision you can be faced with.
You say that the new skill for professionals in the 21st century is living change. Would you share this with us?
I like very much that sentence, and I repeat it many times in my conferences and in my sessions. And this sentence comes from one of the ancient Greek philosophers, Heraclitus. And he used to say something like, the only constant is change. And he had a quote saying something like, no man have ever stepped twice in the same river. So what he was saying is, change is with us all the time. But during some years, we've been working in adapting to change, in managing change, when change is all around us. So what I mean with this is, you don't have to be afraid of change. You just have to enjoy change, because it's part of your evolution. And if you want to evolve, change has to be there. I know what is behind change. Behind change, normally there is uncertainty. So, from a human being point of view, the loss of control, or the perception of control, because we don't have control of anything. But we many times have the perception that we are controlling things. And change means that uncertainty is gonna come. Also, change is taking you out of your comfort zone. In my second book, I don't call it a comfort zone anymore. I talk about a painful zone. Why? Because I don't like it. I know I'm suffering. I know I don't want to be there. However, I don't dare to go out and explore out of that comfort zone. Change is the ability to explore out of that comfort zone. So living change is all the time not having a comfort zone, just exploring like the kids do every single day while they are kids. So to me, that means living change is not adapting, is not managing, it's about enjoy change as part of your life.
Absolutely beautiful. Love, thank you for that. I want to talk to you about your work as an executive coach. Let's talk about high-performing teams. Would you share with us some of the ingredients necessary to develop a high-performing team?
Okay, Philip, as you said in the presentation, I studied during 2 years sports psychology. In the end, I didn't work with sport. I've worked with some sport people, but most of my job has been with a board of directors, taking them and working with them as a high performing team. When I work with them, I work in some skills that to me had to be there when you are part of the team. Trust among all the team members. We have to trust in each other if we want to become a high performing team. Commitment. We are committed with the team goals. We are committed with the directions we are going to. Passion. We are passionate about being in that team. And our passion is contagious to the other team members. So the passion in the team has to be in all their members. Of course, in the team, you have to have great and transparent communication. If there is no communication, there is no team effort. You cannot talk about team. You can talk about different individuals working together, but not a team. So communication has to be there. Of course, if we go to the business, share results. It's not about me. It's about the goals that the team is achieving. So we have to share the results. It doesn't matter if we are from different departments. We are in the same company. We are in the same team. We are just one. And finally, two final things. Not judgment. We are there to work together. It's not about it's your fault or this mine. To me, the team is as strong as the weakest of the members. So it's not about judgment. It's about learning when we make a mistake, and it's about team effort. And finally, something that is very simple, but many teams forget, and is celebrate. When you achieve results, you have to celebrate. As well as you see it in sport, many times in companies, we forget about it. And we have to celebrate. We have achieved something really, really good. We have to stop, celebrate, enjoy, and that celebration is going to prepare us for the next goal that we are going to set up for ourselves. So in summary, I would go for those areas I just told you.
I think they're all equally important and incredible, but I'd like to just pick one and talk about it a little bit more. How do we go about creating passion?
Oof. That's something. That's something. You create it from inside. Passion is about you. And it's about you, of course. There is a definition in the Spanish dictionary. There is a definition of passion that I love, and I'm gonna try to translate it into English. The definition says, I don't know the words, but I'm gonna explain it. Passion has 3 components. The first of the 3 is that you have the passion voluntarily. No one is obligating you. The first thing that passion has to have is that you choose it. Second, you go with everything. You go for real. You don't just try. You don't just go for it a little bit. You go with vehemency. I don't know if that word is English, but you go with everything. And finally, you have a goal. You have something to direct your passion towards it. So, first, it's something voluntary, it comes from you. 2, you go with everything you have. And 3, there is a goal, there is something that leads you to achieve it. So, to me, passion is that. When you are as part of the team, every single one has to share that passions towards that goal that it has to be shared by everyone. If not, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Awesome. You're the author of 2 books, and I'd like to talk to you about them. The first is titled Powerful as a Kid. Would you share your inspiration behind writing this book, and also what can we expect to learn by reading this book?
This book was my first book, and it's a novel talking about a CEO, a general manager, who is having difficulties in his company. And at one point, he decides to work with a mentor, with a former teacher, and she works with him, helping him in how to deal with the problems. And they do it how we, when we were kids, used to deal with some situations in our life. So in the end, it's a conversation between the two of them, and all the time, every single conflict the general manager comes with to her mentor, she translated as how we, when we were kids, or how kids deal with it, do it. Which one was my inspiration? It was 2 parts. First one, my two kids. When I have my 2 kids, as a psychologist, I was observing them all the time. And I realized that they, being normal kids, they were really powerful unless an adult were limiting that power. So I was observing that every single thing they wanted to do, they did it with the passion we were talking about before. They were really powerful. When we are born really powerful, without limitations. That was the first inspiration. The second one, I had been working with executives in executive coaching for 5 years, I think, at that time. No, more than 5 years, almost 7 years. And I realized that many of the executives, CEOs, general managers, board of directors, they were limiting themselves many times. They were very powerful people because of their job, because of the budget, because of the people they have working for them. However, they limited themselves. When I was working with them in one-on-one basics, they were limiting themselves to me too much. And so the inspiration was observing my kids, normal kids, very powerful, and observing the people, the powerful people I was working with, and being aware that when we are adult, at one point, we decide to limit ourselves for no reason. So that was my main inspiration as a way of saying, hey, we have the opportunity and we have the capability to be able to reset ourselves and to reconnect those neuronal circuits that make us powerful when we were kids. And that was the main inspiration.
I absolutely love that. That's awesome. Let's talk about your second book, The Experience of Resetting Yourself. Would you talk about this book with us?
The second book, I would say, is like a practical follow-up of the first one. It's not a novel anymore, it's an essay. And that book talks about what I've been living throughout the crisis and these last years. I've been working with thousands of people in things like resilience, being resilient, in things like stress, managing stress, and things like adversity, how to deal with adversity. And what I've seen is many people in many organizations suffering because they didn't know how to create a resilient profile, how to manage stress, the negative stress, which is called distress, and how to deal with the adversity that we all are going to have in our life. So at one point, I decided that I wanted to write about it because I think I had something to give, based in my experience and in my studies, for people to deal with these three things: adversity, stress, change again, and all of it because we can create a resilient profile to be able to deal with that. So in that book, what you can find is how to manage stress, the daily stress, how to deal with change, as we were talking before, how to live in change, how to deal with adversity, and finally, how to become resilient, because that's something we are gonna need. Health World Organization is telling us that in 2020, the first illness that we are gonna have in the first world is depression. Depression and stress, the negative stress, are really, really linked. So, at one point I decided that I could give a little bit of my finding about these 3-4 areas, because I think that we are not dealing so well because we live in a world of self-demanding, of external demanding, a lot of pressure, and in the end, this is killing us, and we had to stop it. And that was the reason I decided to go for the second book. And in the end, what I'm working on is how to reset yourself, how to reconnect the neuronal circuits that we had before, when stress was not there, limitations were not there, we could deal with adversity, and of course, change was something that we wanted because we were kids and we had curiosity to learn and to discover everything in life.
Absolutely incredible. I love that. Jose, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the show today, and also for sharing so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I've been really, really happy, and I have enjoyed it. And I can only say thank you for being a great host.
Oh, thank you so much, Jose. Where can we find you online?
I'm in all the social network. You can find me in www.jmiguelsanchez.com. That is my webpage, and there you can find my social network. So it would say JMiguelSanchez.com. And there you can find my social network, and you find something interesting and you want to join me, that's the best way, through my webpage.
Awesome. I always end the show with a final question that I ask all my guests, and here it is. If today was your last day on Earth, and you could leave here being remembered for one thing, just one thing, what would that one thing be, and what are you doing today to ensure that legacy?
I would say I would like to be reminded as he was a good person. He was a good person. And what I have done today is funny, because this morning I had a coffee with an old friend that was like almost 4 or 5 years since I didn't see her, and she's in a divorce process, and she was talking to me about the matter, and at one point she was complaining, and she was right. All the things she was saying were right, but she was all the time complaining and not doing anything about it. So at one point I stopped her and I said, okay, what is the point of complaining of something that happened in the past? What is the point of it? And what are you gonna do to change it in the future? Because if you keep trapped in the past, you are not gonna be able to build up the new future you deserve. That was more or less the summary of the conversation. 1 hour or 2 hours later, I received a voicemail in WhatsApp, and she was saying, thank you And she was saying, thank you for those words, because I have realized I was keeping myself trapped in the past, and I was becoming a victim of something that happens in life, in this case, a divorce process. So I want to be remain as a good person, and every single time I have an opportunity, I do my best to do it.